Young Turks now has audio, the TYT Audio Network, podcasts of some of your favorite shows and new shows, including one with Nina Turner, former Ohio State Senator. She's going to do We the People with Nina Turner, talking about equality and justice and seeing that through the eyes of regular Americans who are affected by politics and policy. Everybody check it out at tyt.com/audio.
A federal judge has revoked Donald Trump's former campaign manager's bail and sent him to prison earlier today to await two different trials after it was alleged that he was tampering with witnesses. Judge Amy Berman Jackson of United States District Court for the District of Columbia said that he could not remain free even under stricter conditions, which his lawyers had argued for, in the face of new felony charges that he had engaged in witness tampering while out on bail. Now, in previous shows, we have broken down the evidence that he was doing that witness tampering. It seemed pretty clear to me at the time, multiple witnesses he was communicating with to attempt to coordinate stories with them. They instead went and spoke to the FBI, so he miscalibrated on that. To get you up to speed, in case you haven't been following the Paul Manafort story so far, Manafort is currently facing a combined total of 25 charges spread over two venues. His Virginia trial is currently scheduled to begin on July 25th and his DC trial on September 17th. The charges focus on Manafort's lobbying and foreign work for pro-Russian Ukrainian interests prior to the campaign, his finances, and now alleged witness tampering as well. So we're gonna have a response from Donald Trump and from Donald Trump's legal team. But first, what do you think?
So from time to time, they'll do these polling, and a great majority of Republicans believe that there have been no charges at all in the Russian election meddling situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the country believe that. And I believe it's a majority. John, you remember the poll? The majority of Americans believe there's no charges.
It was 75%, but I'm not sure if that was Republicans or in general.
Right. Manafort alone has 25 charges. So now, some of them might or might not be related to the Russian meddling in this election. A lot of them are related to what he did before the election, also on behalf of the Russians. But he was Donald Trump's campaign manager during the election, and he has a ton of work that he's done with the Russians in the past. And let alone the dozens of other indictments and charges that have been brought. So it is not true that there are no charges. There are a ton of charges, including 25 alone on Manafort.
I do want to apologize, though. In the intro to that story, I had referred to him as the former campaign chairman. It turns out he was actually a coffee boy for the campaign. Because now that he's in jail, the backpedaling on the history of Paul Manafort has begun. Donald Trump tweeted this: "Wow, what a tough sentence for Paul Manafort, who has represented Ronald Reagan, Bob Dole, and many other top political people in campaigns. Didn't know Manafort was the head of the mob. Although, if he was, you would probably know, Donald Trump. What about Comey and Crooked Hillary and all the others? Very unfair." Oh, he represented Ronald Reagan and Bob Dole and others. No current politicians. He wasn't the campaign chair for any of them.
He also lied about how long, or Trump lied about how long he had been the campaign manager, which is such a, we know when he started, we know when he left. It's not confusing at all that Trump is again lying about a specific fact. Like, why would we be surprised?
And in a political organization, I mean, you know, the culture is started from the very top, and we have President Trump that lies and lies and lies and lies on a daily basis. You know, it goes from the top to the bottom of this organization. What I'm hoping is that Mueller's team is going to be able to get him to flip on some key witnesses, and if we get evidence, you know, solid evidence against Donald Trump, which very well may end up happening. And if I'm in Congress, I'm going to be very happy to vote for impeachment of Donald Trump and make sure that he gets held accountable for, you know, for the problems that he's created throughout his entire organization.
Just confirm what Jules is saying. Trump has said that he was only with my campaign for 49 days. So the New York Times did fact checking, and it was 144 days. Now, look, he could have just said a short period of time, and then you could argue over what's short or not short. He just can't help himself. He's pathological. There's no indication under any way of counting that Manafort was with the campaign for only 49 days. He just picked that number out of nowhere and just decided to cut off about 100 days because he can't help himself.
Well, on top of that, Manafort lived in Trump Towers with Trump. They would walk up and down the hallways. I think according to Manafort's daughter, so that they would hang out all the time, and they've known each other for 30 years. how do you create this distance? Like, yeah, 40, a couple weeks, if anything. I don't even know his last name. It's crazy.
So to build on that, you say, all right, well, maybe you live in an apartment building with a guy you don't do business with, and what are you going to do, right? Okay, but wait a minute. He could have picked anyone as his campaign chairman. He had 330 million people to choose from, and if you include some Russians, even more. Okay, so, and out of all those Americans, he decided, I'll take Manafort, the guy who's been known to have ties, whether they were illegal or not is new, right? Although some suspected, but new. But everybody knew that he worked with the Russians, Manafort did. And out of all the people in the country, he's like, out of all the Republican strategists, et cetera, he just happened to pick the one that had all these incredibly deep ties to the Russians. Yet another coincidence tying him to the Russians.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think he's gonna have any problem counting the days anymore, because he can just count the chalk lines on the jail cell wall.
Look, I don't know in the end, after we have these 2 trials, or after Mueller reveals all the information he's been gathering, I don't know if there's gonna be any connection, anything that Paul Manafort has done that is illegal, except in reference to Paul Manafort. It could just be that he was trying to enrich himself, and he was lobbying where he shouldn't, and he was doing money laundering and all that. But if it turns out that that's all it is, I am 100% fine with that. It's so bizarre that in the context of all these investigations, that the conservatives, the Republican Party, their pundits who previously had loved to tout how law and order they were and pro criminal justice, like they don't care at all about whether he broke the law. Tucker Carlson tweeted earlier today, they've locked up the 69-year-old Paul Manafort. The streets are safe again. Like his age matters. Like, well, yeah, you can break any law you want if you're collecting Social Security. It's totally cool then. What is that even supposed to mean? He's tampering with witnesses. You've seen the evidence. It's obvious, and they don't care. And of course, it's not just the pundits. It's also Donald Trump, who was asked about this while he was wandering around the White House lawn earlier today. And he said, I feel badly about a lot of it because I think a lot of it is very unfair. Manafort has nothing to do with our campaign, but I tell you, I feel a little badly about it.
Jesus.
He was your campaign chairman. I'm pretty sure he has everything to do with your campaign. But I'll double down on what John said. If it turns out investigators look into it and they go, look, no, this was about the former leader of Ukraine that he had a crooked deal with in this group in Europe that he called a Habsburg group, and those are the guys he was trying to witness tamper with. But it really had nothing to do with Trump, and Trump didn't do it. It was Manafort. Great, then get Manafort, and then Trump's not guilty of that. We actually care about justice. We actually care about the facts and truth and reality. If you said to me, you can get Trump, but you have to make up facts that Manafort's connected to him, I'd say no, don't do that, right? That's not the American way. But the other side seems to think of it as in terms of tribalism. If they're on my side, I don't care about the rule of law at all. If they're on your side, I want to lock them up no matter what. No matter what, they did it, they didn't do it. And finally, look, the reason why Manafort actually going physically to prison today is a big deal is he's lived a very lavish lifestyle for a long time with the money that he got from the Russians, et cetera, which it turns out 25 counts indicate that maybe ill-gotten gains, and he's used to that lifestyle. Now he's wearing an orange jumpsuit. He's not used to that lifestyle. So that's why they think, well, minus the pardon issue, which is gigantic, obviously, this might make him uncomfortable enough to flip if he has anything on Trump. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.